Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and today I'm continuing something I started a while ago, my story. It's really me exploring my own heritage, as it were. So I can't remember what particular part this was. It's been a while since I recorded one, but I wanted to start when I was 18 years old and I ran away from home. Now, I know that you can't really say you ran away from home when you're 18 because I guess technically you're supposed to be a man at 18. I was living in Horsham. I'd been living in the house that we'd been in since I was 5 years old. My parents had split up at this point. My mother was an alcoholic. We had come home from school many times, my sister and I, dreading to see what state my mum was in. She did work, but she did a lot of part-time work at Sainsbury's and for marketing companies and things like that. And her life had been pretty grim, and she had become an alcoholic mainly when I was about 10. At least that's when I remembered it, or perhaps I was more aware of it and discovered bottles around the house. She never abused us as such, but she not physically, but she did mentally, and there's a lot of that stayed with me all my life. And there came a point when I was working I was actually working in Billingshurst at the time, and I was working for a sound studio. I was only there for 3 months, but I'd got this job, and I'd been previously to that been working in a printing firm for 2.5 years, and I had enough of doing that, mainly because I thought, what will I do in 10 years time if I stay there? I wanted to be an actor and a film director, as you do as a 1970s comprehensive secondary educational boy. I had ideas well above my station, and that none of that went on. I was no opportunity to go to college to learn film, or go to film school, or to even drama school really. So I had left school and had gone to work as a printers, and then I'd moved into this other job when a couple of likely lads came in who were setting up a video studio as part of their sound studio in Billingshurst, which was, I guess Billingshurst is about 10 miles from Horsham, something like that. Anyway, I convinced them that I would be a value to them because I had made Super 8 films and I was interested in video, and it was a step up from what I wanted to do, that printing I didn't think at the time was, and hadn't taught me anything, but of course it had taught me a hell of a lot. And so I ran away. My mum's drinking and her verbal and mental abuse had got too much, to the point that one night I just walked out, put on my helmet on my bike. I had a motorbike. I had this, wasn't a motorbike, it was a motorcycle, a 50cc or 49cc motorcycle at the time. And I didn't have it very long. I think I only had it about a month, but it was the time I had it, and there was an element of freedom. Prior to that, I'd cycled everywhere. I used to cycle and see my father, who lived in Guildford, and I would cycle up to see Dad. And if I was very, very lucky, he might give me a lift 10 of the miles home. It was 20 miles away. He very rarely, if ever, gave me a lift all the way back. So I would end up doing 40 miles. But as a kid that was the only way he could see his dad, I did it, But I had this motorcycle, but it was a terrible thing. I was no good on it really. And on bends, I would be going too fast, and many a time I fell off this thing. One time, heading home after I'd run away, I ended up going round a bend too quickly, through a hedge and into somebody's garden. So I soon got rid of this motorcycle because me and motorcycles was not going to work. There was another time when I was in Horsham, and I took a turning too sharply, fell over on the main road, and all the cars suddenly stopped. It was a good job nobody hit me, and people came running up to me and thought I was you know, in a lot of peril, and with the revving of the motor, because as I fell, I remember holding onto the throttle, which made the revving even louder, which was quite dramatic. Anyway, I ran away from home, and I had been visiting prior to this a woman called Lynn, who lived in Petworth. And Petworth is about 15 miles, I suppose, 15 or 16 miles from Horsham. She was a woman in her, oh, it's so difficult to think, she must have been in her late 50s, I suppose, at the time. She ran an amateur youth theatre in Graffham, which is a little village near to Petworth in West Sussex. And through my drama and interest in theatre, had sort of joined this thing, and was, since having the motorbike, made it possible, or motorcycle, to go up there and take part in some of their plays. And she had this house in Lombard Street, which is a very well-known street in Petworth. It's sort of old-fashioned cobbled street, with a gate off the side of the street into this enclosed garden, and then the house. And there was a lot of young people who would surround her and be part of this youth theatre movement. So when I'd had enough of my mum, who was living on her own at the time with me, and my sister, who had, I think my sister had gone actually, I think my sister had also left with a chap that she had, I think she was living in a factory, but that's another story altogether. It's funny how as you get a bit older, these things which are very clear in your mind start getting a bit conflated and different. But anyway, I didn't know where to go when I went out the door. I just bunged some basic clothes in, and I drove up to see Lynn, and I said, can I come round? I've run away from home, which sounded more dramatic than it was. As I say, I was 18, for goodness sake. And I got there, and she made me a cup of tea, and she said, well, you better stay here the night. She was married and had four children, 3 girls and a boy. And the 2 of the girls I knew, one I wasn't at that time familiar with. And so I stayed there, and I ended up staying there from that night onwards for 2 years, staying with the family. And I didn't see my mother face to face. I spoke to her on the phone, but I didn't see my mother for those 2 years. My mum would ring and rant down the phone, a trait that she kept to the end of her life, really. She would often ring and fire abuse when she was drunk, and as she got older, she got more and more drunk for longer and longer, and of course it killed her in the end, but she did last till she was 82, I think. So anyway, I ran away, and I was still commuting to my work, but eventually I got rid of the bike, and I got fired from the job because I crashed a car. I crashed one of their cars. It was in the winter, and I'd gone back to their studio, which was on a farm, Rosier Farm it was, in Billingshurst, and it was in the middle of winter, and I wear glasses, and I'd lost my glasses, and I chanced it on my bike. I was all right on my bike, and I managed to get on this motorbike. I managed to get down there, and they were doing up the studio, and I remember one of the guys who worked there, one of the two partners, one of them said to me, oh, Richard, go into town and get some glue. We need to glue these carpet tiles down. And I said, well, I've lost my glasses. I can't really drive. He said, well, if it's only a mile into town, you'll be able to do that. So I felt very anxious, but I didn't want to disappoint them. So I got into their car and drove up the lane out of the farm, this sort of dirt track. Well, snow had fallen, and there was snow all around. This white car came round the corner very much at the last minute, and I didn't know what to do because I'd driven, but I'd never driven in snow really. And I saw the car, slammed on my brakes, and then in slow motion the car just kept going, and no matter what I did to steer, as an 18-year-old, inexperienced, I was hopeless. Smash straight into the car, and apparently the damage I did wrote both cars off, and the guys were not very happy with me. I went back and I said, look, I'm really sorry, I've just smashed the car, there's been an accident. And the guy whose car came in, he wasn't very happy, and so they dismissed me on the spot. And I got on my moped and slowly got back home. Well, I got new glasses and I was all right after that, but I was unemployed. And at the time I was, as I say, living in Petworth. But very quickly after, so I signed on the dole, I must have signed on the dole or something, but very quickly afterwards, a friend who ran drama courses at Lodge Hill in Pulborough, or in Watersfield, just south of Pulborough, said there was a teaching post that I could do at St Michael's School in Duncton, which was a school, it was a Georgian house in Burton Park, and it was originally the old Georgian house in Burton Park as a big country estate that had been many things, but was now a girls' school, a live-in girls' school. Now I was, oh yes, so this came around about, I was 20 now, I was 20, so 2 years, I just remembered, that's true. I crashed, so I must have been on the dole for a couple of years, and I was writing things and writing scripts, and there's a whole load of stuff which I need to sort of clear my mind and get that together. But as far as the school was concerned, because I had been running or taking part in courses at this drama weekends and weeks and summer schools, and I was interested in mime, this teacher friend of mine said, her name was Jill, she said there's this teaching post at the school and it's 1 day a week, but you'll be paid something like £6 each class. It was a lambda exam, and these girls who were 13, 14 would have to take these lambda exams. This was extracurriculum activities. So they were rich girls who were at this school, and their parents wanted them to take these extra courses, and so there was this mime lambda exam that they could do, and I got this job, £6 a session, but I did per pupil, and over the day I did 10 pupils, so I earned £60. I didn't do any other work for the rest of the week, because actually that was pretty good. That was a good pay. So I did that, and I did it on a Monday, I remember. So I would cycle down, turn up, teach mime to these 13, 14-year-olds, these girls who obviously had just come into puberty and were trying to prove themselves. And I was a very young man, 20s, 19, 20 I was. I may not have been 20, I may have been 19, I can't really remember. I know it was pretty much at that point. And these girls were desperately trying to show that they had womanly wise, and would unbutton their blouses and try and do all these things to, I guess, to put me off or to embarrass me, I don't know. But I wasn't having any of that. I was ignoring all of that because I knew, I needed the job, and I knew I was onto a good thing because I had the rest of the week to write, juggle, unicycle, and various other things that I was doing at the time, and take part in these plays and do street theatre and all sorts of things. And yeah, I did that for a short while. Now, there's much more of these stories, and I'm going to continue with this my story and tell you more of my early days, going through my time when I went to mime school, to creating a children's television series, to going up to the point where I started the Bold Explorer. So if you do like them, do let me know, and I will continue to do them. These are the sort of things I can do on these wet and miserable days. Do give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. But at every opportunity when the sun is shining, or it's not raining, or it's not too windy, I will be out making my normal videos. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. It's been great to share part of my story with you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.